this game beats resilience into you, or it will beat resilience out of you. I literally had £10 in the bank. The game's not giving you anything.
No.
Just like life.
Exactly.
You've got to make it all happen, and I think everyone on the golf course is a self-employed individual.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm getting emotional. So desperate for everyone to enjoy this game because it's brought me so much joy. If you want to be good at your job, you've got to bring passion to the table. You've got to bring enthusiasm. You've got to have good work ethic. So I just don't think it's for the golf coaching or taking a hobby. It's just life, man. I mean, you look at successful people, they're not laying in bed till 10 o'clock.
Stuart, good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
My pleasure to speak to Stuart today. Stuart is a professional golf coach, now a budding media personality, and has actually turned his hand to a whole range of different activities. But Stuart started his career as a tour pro. He then went on to teach some of the world's best golfers, and now is at home at Precision Golf, where he does coaching. And we're going to talk a little bit about Stuart's journey over the course of his career and how it's evolved, how he made his big decisions. And I think the first thing I would say, Stuart, is this podcast is called Job to Journey, but I think in your case it's hobby to journey, isn't it? Or pastime to journey. Where did it start? Where did the golfing journey start for you?
It started, first of all, thanks for having me on, Peter. It's really nice to share my story. I did a little video on my own channel about this, but certainly not in the depth that we're going to cover today. So it started really over the park with a pal hitting a ball, and I did it, and the ranger chased us off, and from there it took over, really. My uncle was a big golfer, played at Wimbledon Common Golf Club, and my dad dabbled at it, but then when I took it up, I was playing a lot of squash at the time. When I took it up, he sort of joined the bandwagon, and it used to then be sort of Christmases with lots of cousins and uncles all playing golf, and that was when I was 14, so it's quite a late starter when you think of modern day golfers now. And that's where it started, really, over a recreation ground. Crikey, if you did that now, a whizzing golf ball, because you all know how far a golf ball goes in such a short space of time, right? 60, 70, 80 yards is nothing for a shot, and we were taking full whacks with these golf balls over the park.
And as you mentioned, you're a good sportsman in general, right? You know, county squash player. How quickly did it take you to actually get, pretty good at the game? Obviously, you went beyond the rec centre to presumably a proper golf course. How quick was your journey to say, do you know what, I'm not bad at this game, and I'm down to scratch or thereabouts?
It was about 3 years. It was my first handicap was 19 at 14 after playing for 6 months, and then by the time I was 18, I was down to scratch pretty much. Yeah, down to scratch, and then turning pro. So it was a pretty short spell as an amateur, really. I played a lot of golf. It felt like, when I look back at it, I think about all of the tournaments I played and the travel that I did around Surrey and the various parts of the south, really. I think there was a lot of golf I played. From the minute I broke up from school, I was just lived up at the golf club. And then every half term, every Christmas break, every night was at the range. It completely took over my life, really. And I forget, club comps, away days with the golf club, holidays with the golf. It was just wall-to-wall golf for the first 4 years of playing. It was great because I didn't really have a social life other than up at the golf club, and all my friends were golfers, so we'd play golf on a weekend and then go out Saturday night and then turn back up at the golf club Sunday morning with a bit of a fuzzy head and then play some more golf, so it was just golf and a bit of social and then some education thrown in along the way as well.
I'm just going to take a little time out here, Stuart, because I think the world is divided into two types of people. One is people who are obsessed with golf and people who think it's the most boring thing in the entire universe. And I just want to assure people we're going to be talking about a lot more than golf, but obviously it all starts with golf. So I just want to stay tuned, guys, because we're going to go on to some other topics as well. But let's focus on the golf for now. But I mean, it's one thing being good at golf. It's another thing, do you know what? I'm going to have a crack at going pro. What was the decision point there and the discussion with your family that said, I can go from hobby nights out with the lads back to the course to I'm going to try and make this my profession?
I think when you get down quite quickly as a handicap, quite young, academically, I was okay. I wasn't massive passion on academia, really. I didn't really have any sight, and I don't know of anything other than sport, really. And so I think at that point, I really, once I got down to sort of 5-6 handicap, I really sort of made it aware to my parents that's what I wanted to do, and they were very supportive. They're very supportive of that. It's not that I was a dropout of school or anything, but I don't think I was ever going to be a lawyer or brain surgeon. So golf kind of was my passion, and so at 16, 17, I showed an aptitude for sport and golf. So that's kind of when it happened, really. And as I say, they're very supportive of that.
And maybe do you want to just expand on that a little bit? Because parents, maybe have I do it. You stop yourself having a preconditioned expectation of your children, but your parents sound like they were all in terms of, Stuart, it's your life, your decision, and we support you.
Yeah, well, my dad was self-employed and a self-made man,
right,
and was successful. So I think he liked the side that golf offered up, that because there was, if playing doesn't work out at the time, you could be a coach, and there was, I'm sure in the background he may have researched it, that there was enough to have a reasonable living as a successful coach if playing didn't work out. So it wasn't like you were going to be a footballer or a squash player, or because my dad was a squash player, that's how I got into squash. You never had a second career. If you didn't become a professional squash player, you couldn't then go and coach it. Well, you could, but not really. You think about that now. I mean, goodness me, there's no squash courts around. So they're very keen on me going down that route. And because I was mixing with a lot of adults, I think we've spoken about it many times, about 13, 14, 15-year-olds. I coach a young lad, Christos. At 15, he can hold a conversation with adults, and I think that carries so much with golfers, young golfers, and mixing around at the golf club. So I think they always felt that I was in very safe hands with members at the club, in the bar, just being a wholesome individual around invariably wholesome people, and it was a nice sport for that. And I think that's why they probably felt quite assured that if playing didn't work out, then I could have a career in coaching. And I think that's why it was a supportive role my parents played, rather than feeling like I had to justify that golf had to work or I had to be a certain ability. So it was very it is a warm feeling that I got from my parents of going down that journey rather than anything else. And that can, I think now with golf and the money that you can make playing, I think that's quite polarized now with the parents that I see with young golfers. I think it can be very much they need to be a player at all costs, and I think that comes across sometimes. And I think it's different for everyone. But my parents were just do it,
great,
do the best you can, and if it doesn't work out, all it's going to be fine.
And so, but for you personally, 18 years old, we're all dreaming at that point in our lives. What was the ambition? Was the ambition, I'm going to be, walk down the 18th and 2 putts for the Open? Was it earn a proper living on tour by being one of the best golfers, probably in Europe? Or was it, no, actually, probably this is eventually going to be a coaching gig? Where did you see yourself as a sort of aspirational 18-year-old?
It's a good question, that, because I hear people all the time, tour players, talk about on the putting green at the golf club, practicing, this is a putt for the Open. I never did that.
Right, okay.
I never thought about winning golf tournaments. I thought about being as good as I could be. So it never crossed my mind, because at that time, the European Tour wasn't on mainstream TV. You couldn't switch Sky on at that time. We didn't have it at home, so I never really had it. And I had a really close pal that I'd go around and maybe watch a bit of golf, PGA Tour coverage. So I never really had that vibe about European Tour golf. I just knew that I wanted to be a professional golfer and do as well as I could. So I don't think I ever had aspirations of playing on tour until, maybe 18, 20 at best. But it was not like, I've got to get on tour. It was just about turning pro and being good and that way, rather than going and winning the Open. So I never had that really in me, which is quite strange, because I hear that, as I say, hear that all the time, but I can't relate to it.
Fair enough. And this is, not to age probably both of us, Stuart, but this is pre-Tiger, right? This is when people earn livings, but they probably had to have a second career, and it was unless you were Jack Nicklaus and Faldo, it wasn't the money spinner of an average 50th in the world is a multimillionaire nowadays. It wasn't like that back then, was it?
No, he certainly didn't have, again, you didn't have the behind the scenes that you get now. Young lads see the cars they drive, the jets they fly, the hotels they're staying in. We didn't have any of that. We just saw it as they were going out playing golf, Spanish Open and the major and that kind of thing. So again, different generation. You just didn't have those insights of what could be, and what you could make. It just, the appeal was traveling the world, playing golf, and that.
Well,
that's quite a nice one, right?
You're 18 or 20, why not dream of that, to
right.
be honest? And I think that's one of the things that, I know you manage some juniors, and I think that's, whether it's your son wants to be a DJ or a golfer, a guitarist, you can't kill their dreams, right? I mean, that's just the worst thing to do, even if ultimately you think, well, how many people are going to make, but that to me is the worst thing you could do to any 14 to whatever age year old.
And I never had that. Yeah, I never had that conversation with my dad or my mum.
Yeah,
nobody ever sat me down and said, "Oh, this is going to be."
Well, great.
There's only a few people that are doing that. So I'm glad I never had that chat. I think.
But let's move on, Stuart. Then to as you said, the dream was, well, what could be better than going around the world and playing golf for a living? How did you go about that? I know you spent some time in Europe, but also you spent a real stint in Australia. Where did you get going to, right, I'm on tour, well, I'm a pro, how do I actually play in some tournaments at this point? How do I get going?
Yeah, I was incredibly lucky. I found a sponsor when I was in my early 20s. I first took the plunge at going to Q School, which was East Sussex National, I think, first Q School I went to. And it was about £1,200. I didn't get through stage one at any point, but by entering it, you had a ranking that got you onto the Challenge Tour. I mean, when you call it a ranking, it wasn't really worth the paper it was written on. But what you did get is you got invites into things like the Nigerian Open,
right?
That nobody would really in their right mind want to go. And that was my first insight into being a pro and playing an overseas tournament. And by goodness, it was probably the most influential journey of my life. Seeing dead bodies in the road.
Oh my goodness.
Seeing people being beaten on the putting green.
Oh.
It was just the most horrific trip you could ever wished on a 19, 20-year-old. And it was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because you go to crazy and wonderful places, whether it's in Australia, America, Europe, Africa, going to Zambia and going to Kenya and places like that, you just need your wits about it and being sharp and sort of a bit streetwise. You grow up very, very quickly. I mean, I think about young Christos in 3 years' time going and doing that. It's like, goodness me. Knowing what I know now, it's like, be careful. Because when we picked up the visa at the Nigerian embassy, the lady behind the desk said, if you do not know, 99% there's going to be someone to meet you at the other end, don't get on the plane.
Yeah.
Because if there's no one there, you're probably not going to come home. But being the budding, I got to get playing golf. I was out there. So just headed off into Africa, played some tournaments out there, and it was the best thing ever. And that I did that probably for 4 or 5 years, trying to play some starts on the Challenge Tour. Kept on missing cuts, not very good. Always felt like I had a bit of a weak game, and then went down to Australia and spent 6 months of the our winter down there from sort of October through to March. I did that for 4 or 5 years, and that was when I was playing my best. I was top 5 in the South Region Order of Merit, which was some good standard of golf I was playing, and I think that always has held me in good stead, because I think when you stop playing, having a good baseline of ability is really, really important. I think if you've been a professional and you're battling to break 80, and then you become a coach, the criteria to be a pro now is quite low in terms of a playing standard. If you want to make money, you'd have to think about, I need to be breaking par every time. So at that time, when I was going down to Australia, going backwards and forwards, I was working with a guy called Steve Bann, who's incredibly influential on my coaching and my career going forwards, mixing with the likes of Jeff Ogle, Stuart Appleby,
Oh, well.
Aaron Badley, all of these guys on a weekly basis, daily basis, going out and playing rounds of golf with them. It was 6 years of just incredible development for my own self with my game, how I thought about the game, and I had an incredible sponsor, as I intimated. Ironically, a vodka company helped me out.
Oh, very good.
I didn't drink the stuff, but it was a very lucky, fortunate meeting with someone from where I was attached as a professional that helped me finance that, and in return, I would travel with them and coach them while I wasn't.
Well, we'll come on to that purple patch in Australia, Stu, but it's funny you mentioned the Nigerian Open, because don't tell anyone this, but I was taking a tea break a couple of Fridays ago, and I never do this, but I did for whatever reason. I turned on the TV, Kenyan Open. So it's 2:00 in the afternoon here, it's 4:00, 5:00 and it's Friday afternoon. Well, it was like a Shakespearean tragedy, what I was watching. I mean, because I just happened to catch 6 to 8 people who were on the cut line. And, one guy, he needs a par to make the cut. It's a par 5. He lays up, but he lays up into the trap 40 yards off the green, thins his wedge back of the green. He's got to get the chip in. That's it. He's 1 over. Right, when's the next plane to South Africa? Meanwhile, Marcel Sims, 3 over the cut line, puts his second shot to 20 feet, holds the putt. Oh, suddenly I've missed the cut by 1 shot. And I think that is the reality of the grind, isn't it? On these tours of the bit, even on the PGA, you don't see this on TV, of the day-to-day life of a tour pro. That's the reality for many people, and probably yourself at some point of the journey.
Yeah, and I think when you've got a Marcel Sim, there's a really good example. Someone that in his early career couldn't stop winning, traveling the world, majors, then had a patch where he couldn't bust eggs, and now he's come out the other side of it and won. So you would say that someone like that has got so much resilience, missing a cut by 1 and then going on and probably winning next week. But yet you've got the other side of the 1-shot cut misses, that is another one in a long line of 15 cuts. But it's also in a long line of years where they haven't had those good years, and they haven't got a big reserve of cash.
Yeah.
And so you've got one shot cut misses that are brilliant, that have won 3 times, and then you've got the 1-shot cut misses that have never won anything. Both counts. It's horrendous for both of them.
Yeah.
The guy that's won 3 times, I can't believe I'm doing this and I'm missing cuts by 1 still. And the guy that's never done it, I can't believe I'm still doing it and I'm still rubbish. So no matter what it is, it's an uncomfortable situation. But you just, this game beats resilience into you, or it will beat resilience out of you. Just not about how hard you get hit; it's about how well you get back up. Right?
Yeah,
so,
and I think
the
people,
game is.
as I said, sorry, Stuart. So, as we said, whether you like golf or not, it's a life lesson of a sport, right? In terms of resilience, in terms of character, etc. And but let's move on to your purple patch. I know every time I've spoken to you about Australia, Jeff Ogle, he won the US Open. Aaron Bradley and Stuart Appleby, world-class golfers, and it's a great country as well. So 4 or 5 years at that point, are you to some extent living the dream? Actually, I'm playing good golf in a beautiful country with some of the best players, in the world. Was that a purple patch from a career perspective?
Yeah, it was. Best time of my life. Yeah. It was, at the time, it felt amazing. And looking back at it, it felt amazing. I'm incredibly grateful for those years, because they effectively developed me as a coach that I am today, and really made me see how good the best players in the world are. I was playing with Jeff the year before he won at the US Open, relentlessly consistent, again, hit it a decent way. But all of these guys, just their work ethic was incredible. It was an amazing country to travel around. We'd go off and play 25 pro-ams in a row. You'd get in your car, stay at various townships, you'd travel in the bush. And these townships, they loved having the pro-am, because it was like their open event. for that year. And so and as a pommy,
Yeah.
me coming in, I got a little bit more of an extra treatment, star treatment, and because they were so grateful. And if I just spoke to a friend of mine who just come back from Australia for the first time, his daughter's moved down there, and he went and saw her. He said everywhere where I went, everyone was so keen to talk to me because of my accent, and it was the accent and how far away you feel, because you really feel like you are completely on the other side of the world, because you've got this small window at the end of each day to speak to people back in Europe because they're about to go to sleep or you're about to go to sleep, and so you really feel completely away from the rest of the world. Golf courses are just completely different to the UK, completely different to Europe, and I think in the US. They're really, really their own very individual style of golf out there, which, again, more growth with short game, more growth with hitting it, finding fairways off the tee. So in every department, as a human, as a golfer, a future coach, really, for 6 years, it changed me as a human for sure.
Perfect. So then at what point, Stuart, in this part of your journey, are you thinking actually, you can tell me, I'm missing home. Maybe I don't want to be hitting balls quite this often, 7 days a week, or actually I'm quite liking this coaching laugh, and I'm getting quite good at it. Your words, but how did that transition from coming home and maybe more going down the coaching path transpire?
Yeah, so I was playing my best golf down in Australia, and I was playing my best golf when I came back, and I didn't go down there for a couple of years. Sponsor no more.
Right.
So I couldn't fund that back in the UK. And I was getting more interest from coaches, from players about coaching, and I started working with Steve Webster on the DP World Tour, this in 2011. And I was starting to do more of the coaching side of it to really finance my playing still. And I now started feeling like I was showing a bit more aptitude for the coaching side, purely because of when I was working down in Australia, I started to really get more involved in the anatomical side of golfers and how we move and that kind of stuff. Not really from trying to train people in the gym or anything like that, but I just wanted to be a bit more adept at that, and I took some courses and that kind of thing, and so the transition of having to finance it wasn't. I was 27, 28 by this time. I haven't had a stint on the Challenge Tour making cuts and doing well. Never had a chance of getting on the main tour, so I kind of knew, really, I'm not good enough here. Right. So I need to start to transition into something else. It wasn't a conscious decision. It's just that I started working with Steve. I really enjoyed working at the BMW with him, which then led on to other stuff. And then I got to meet Nick, and then a few more, Nick Doherty, to more other golfers as well. So it was a subtle but very quick transition. It gained some momentum quite quickly, but it was never a moment, I'm going to pack up playing. It was just that my coaching became a bit more of a mainstay of financing my golf and something that I enjoyed.
You then start more coaching. Did your journey of coaching start actually more with pros than it did with club players? Is that reality of the situation?
Yeah, it's probably a fair assessment, really, and that really gave me an opportunity into getting a little bit more notoriety and working with amateurs. Because really, I had no database of amateur golfers, really. I had been traveling around playing golf. I had been doing tidbits here and there. I was always attached to the World of Golf, which is a golf range down at New Malden in Surrey. So I'd always kept my attachment there, and I was always welcome there, and they were incredible with me. But I wanted to get a little bit more of a base, where I started doing a little bit of work over in Godstone, and that side of it then started to give me a bit more of a place to work with people. But I was still traveling quite a bit with Nick, a bit with Steve, and a senior tour player as well. So I was slowly building up a bit of a database of amateur golfers. But you're absolutely right. It was more with tour players that my coaching started with.
So Stuart, maybe just stepping away from this is, you've been self-employed your whole life. You're transitioning from playing as a pro golfer to transitioning to coaching. I know you did a few other activities as well. Was there any periods of uncertainty or doubt or concern, or how am I going to pay the rent? Or how was the evolution happen from from a kind of mental or kind of career perspective?
Yeah, I think when I lost my sponsor and then I had to start really gathering up my own finance, I didn't have anything in the bank, like nothing. I literally had £10 in the bank, and I had credit card debt of about 10 grand, I would say. And I'm sort of in my deep 20s, and that's a scary thought, really. I owned a property that I had invested in, so I was okay with that, but I didn't have any, there was no part to go out, and that made me go cold. And at that point, it made me think playing is not going to pay the bills here. And so it really, really changed my mind, or focused on the coaching and how to start to build up, because life's expensive. You know what a nice car costs, a nice house costs, holidays. It's an expensive world. And I think that was the point where I really thought I need to knuckle down now and really get focused on what's going to take me forwards for the next 15, 20 years. So I'd say that was probably when I lost my sponsor. Really, that was the moment that I felt super insecure, that I now had to, as I was properly self-employed, because I felt like I was almost a bit employed because I had a sponsor giving me money every month. So at that point, I now feel properly self-employed. So that would be it.
And did you consciously develop a coaching ethos? I mean, I remember, many years ago, and I read a Golf Monthly, and I saw a tip from a pro, and he was at a course relatively nearby, and he coached a major winner. And I went along for a couple of lessons, and the actual coaching was fine. Two lessons, and honestly given, and good advice. But this guy came out, he looked like $1 million, right? Nice sunny day in June. His shorts are like iron within an inch of their life. His hair is perfect. He's got a George Hamilton tan. And I'm thinking, I'm just giving you 50 quid so you can go and buy another pair of golf shoes. And it was very subtle, because actually he was a very pleasant individual who gave me a nice lesson. And I always think, you come across as someone who really cares, and you have that deep ethos of, I really want this person for this hour to play golf. And I know, because you do it myself and other coaches, send a WhatsApp, I've got it going better today, Stuart, and you're genuinely pleased. Is that just your personality, or did you make a conscious decision of, well, if I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to do it a bit like this?
I go into every lesson like it's my first, and I go into every lesson knowing that I hold your pastime in my hands. And I think that keeps me honest. It keeps me away from complacency. If you've worked with the best golfers in the world and they've put their golf in your hands, and you know that their mortgage is relying on it, their careers rely on it, why should an amateur golfer be any different? And so my coaching, I think, sometimes gets a little bit too pushy. I get a little bit too keen for someone to get better. And I think that is my downfall, but that comes from a place of I'm so passionate about you getting better. And so I've always, my dad was always, if you do something, don't do it half-bummed, do it properly. And I thought, I go to work with polished shoes. I always stand. I would never sit during a session. I'd never take another call, respond to a text message. I'm all into that session. And I think that for me is giving value. It's making the person know I care. I think I watch lots of stuff about how we communicate. Communication is so important, how you articulate it, the enthusiasm, highlighting points that need to be more highlighted than others, making sure that you are not being submissive in the coaching environment. The client, especially with this game, there's so much information out there. Golfers can walk in with their own preconceived ideas, and before you know it, you're singing their tune, and they're paying you money. And so there is so many different pieces of the puzzle that I believe need to go together to make you a successful golf coach, or any individual. But presentations, if you're a communicator, which is what I am, I think you need to know how to communicate and get the best out of yourself to project your image. So I've always had that self-improvement in me, because as a golfer, the baseline, I've always wanted to get better to playing golf. Now, as I've just moved the attention from my golf swing over to other people's golf swings, I'm trying to make them as good as I can make them. And that includes the intensity that I work at, the after sort of lesson service that I give. I suppose it's just in me, because I think as a self-employed individual, nobody's giving you a check at the end of the month. You've got to try as hard as you can to make sure that people want to keep coming back and seeing you.
Oh, and I appreciate that, Stuart. And I think, for me, coming to see you is, I know you don't work hard at your golf game, if you can forgive me for saying that. You
No.
don't want to, but
No.
I know you work hard. I know you're in the studio at 6 a.m. on certain days. I know if I go on a boot camp with you, it's all well organized and you take personal responsibility. So when I come in for a lesson, I think, well, why wouldn't I work hard at my golf game before I go see Stuart again? Because what am I going to say to Stuart? It's like, I couldn't be bothered to practice, but I thought I'd pop in for another lesson. So to me, that ethos that you project translates into how much effort I put in. I mean, obviously, it's my own ambition and my own desire to play better golf, but doing it with a partner who has a similar ethos, I think just makes it so much easier, frankly, Stuart. And I think you project that personally.
Yeah, it's certainly something that I pride myself on, and I get people saying, I got told off by Stuart today. Well, if that's how you're going to take it, then fine. If you're not practicing enough is telling you off, then fine. If you going off and watching another YouTube clip and then pushing aside my message and you want to follow that's perceived as telling off, that's fine. But the reality is you're paying me for my expertise, and I'm going to dish up what I believe to be the way into improving your golf, and that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
So any lessons from the specific, Nick Doherty, Stevie Webster, maybe there's some other names that I'm not familiar with, Stuart, but any lessons from that experience of coaching these guys who are earning their living? I mean, they're very good golfers, right? They did earn a living playing golf, and what it was like to coach them, and I think sometimes you caddied for them and went out on the road with them. Any lessons from that in particular versus the coaching of myself and the other people who come on your mat on a day-to-day basis?
So working with the best players in the world, I would say we need to understand that they are no different. There's way too big a barrier that is projected that these are tour players and these are amateurs. Tour players are just as vulnerable in every sense of the word as amateur golfers. They don't like tee shots. They don't like seeing bad shots. They feel vulnerable about their golf swing. They're always working on things and they are addicted to it. But the nuances of hip turn, what they're doing with the club, all of that stuff, the only difference is speed. They're faster.
Right.
Amateurs are a bit slower, which does create lots of different things. But ultimately, they are living the same enjoyment and fears that amateur golfers, and I think that would be the biggest takeaway, because I had this preconceived idea before you get out on tour, coaching on tour, you think that these guys are bulletproof and some supermen, and they're really not. I mean, they hit sclaffers like the rest of you or us, and I think you don't get to see that because obviously they're only showing the best 10 players in any tournament. And so I would say that for me, they are no different to the rest of you. They're just a little bit better at it, and they're just doing it more often. But they're still living and breathing the same fears and experiences that amateur golfers are.
And I think back to this parallel with golf and life, Stuart, is and is to that point is I play golf and I'll play with a two-handicapper who plays the first 14 holes really nicely, snap hooks one, and then becomes, Yosemite Sam, right? Hit one bad shot. You'll play with somebody else who shot 106 and smiled the whole way around. But it is a microcosm of life. It's who am I to judge the reaction of somebody to an event? It's not my life, it's their life. So, I mean, if I was scratch after 14 holes, I'd be singing all the way to the bar. But that's not my life. That's this other guy's life or lady's life. And I think that microcosm of golf and life is so close, personally, and so many lessons to be drawn.
Yeah, the game's not giving you anything.
No,
just like life.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to make it all happen, and I think everyone on the golf course is a self-employed individual.
Yeah.
Whereas that's a tough difference between team sports and individual sports. Some people thrive on team environment, some people thrive on.
Yeah.
the single individual sports. I think that there are real parallels with what golf gives a person and what he has to adapt to on the golf course, because it's not just driving, it's not just iron play, it's not just chipping, it's just there's so many just variants. But I think that's the reason why when people get into golf, there's so much to this month I'm really into my driving, this month I'm really into my chipping, this month I'm really into my putting, and I don't do any of it any good at the same time. The game really teaches you to manage your time, manage your game, and at the same time manage yourself, of course.
And so, as you said, golf and yourself is sort of the equivalent of being unemployed, as it was almost the metaphor. At what point did you then think, actually, and you can tell me how it came about, is actually having a home and having Precision Golf as a home and being part of a management team, and you come to work and there's, I think, whatever, 20 odd people in the office. At what point did you think, actually, I'm still self-employed, but I'd love to blend it into being something bigger? How did that come about? And again, was that part of your business plan, or was that just a natural evolution?
Yeah, I suppose as I've got older, I've tried to keep evolving, and my time at Precision has evolved. When I first came here, there was no coaching at all. Now we have myself, Lewis Sparrow, and Henny Koyak. So there's now 3 of us here coaching, and I oversee that. And we must do 30, 40 hours worth of coaching a week, perhaps more. That was just an evolution of me being here and promoting it and saying to the guys that we have space for more. And with that, the Precision expanded. They wanted help with how that expansion would look and how to get more word out. And at that point, they lent on me and thought, have I got any ideas? And so that was just an evolution of me being here and wanting to nothing more than just see something grow and be part of it. I think from my father was a builder and owned a building company, and I've always wanted to put my hand at building something, whether it's a golf swing, whether it's a business, whether it's something else. I just enjoy making things grow and develop. And I think if that's in you, and most of it is selfishly, because sure, I get paid to help people play golf, but I don't get paid for the text messages. I don't get paid for the emails. You could say it's in part of the package, but I don't see it as that way. I just see my time on the mat as the bit that I'm being paid for. So I always want to give more than than perhaps I charge for, just because I'm passionate about making something grow. So that, again, I think that's just been in me. My dad always used to get out super early. I think it's the same for all of us. My role model is my dad, and how he worked so hard to develop his own business, and I saw how well he did, and so I have aspirations of being that same self-made man and a bit of an empire of golf and being able to say, yeah, I've done that and I've done this, all within a game, rather than you're a golfer, I'm a golf coach, I just stand on the mat and that's it. That wouldn't be enough for me. So I love doing the bit of the management thing. I love doing helping Precision Golf develop their business, even though I have no stake in it. I don't have any portion of the business, so it's just to help it grow.
But and I think that drive to me, Stuart, is obvious in terms of things like, I'm putting words in your mouth a little bit, but like I've coached a bunch of people. I actually like a subsection of those people more than just, a professional relationship. What about a boot camp? What about a boot camp with a safari at the back end? What about a tournament with some pros, leading each team? Is that just the way your mind works? Is just trying to find that little bit extra, interest for yourself, but also value for your customers?
Yeah, I love the overseas trips. I used to do a boot camp every month from October to March, and obviously that's how we really got to know each other better than just the hour that I would see you on the mat for. And I love that downtime, sitting around at the Chicken Shack down in Portugal.
Yeah.
Marufos, if you've never been there, get yourself down there. And just enjoying the sport beyond the golf course and chatting about good times and bad times that we've all had on the golf course. And I've taken people to South Africa and the safari trips. And when you get to hang out with people that share a passion, you get to hear about their lives. Again, you're growing. But this was all started when I was a junior at the golf club, wasn't it? I was sitting at the golf club having a cup of tea at 14 years old, talking to someone that I don't know, and they're humouring me with whatever I want to talk about, and before you know it, you're talking about their stuff, and that's no different, 40 years on. So I love the trips. I've just backed off of it a bit the last 18 months, purely because I've just been so busy with so much else going on that I've just again don't want to do something a bit half bummed. I want to make sure that I'm hitting the spot with it, and they do take a decent amount of organising. So that's why I've backed away from that just for a year or so, a bit of a hiatus.
And do you feel that I've enjoyed every one of those boot camps I've been on, and you've done many more. Do you feel you learn from people? Is that the advantage of those boot camps, apart from their fun, apart from it's a different style of coaching, apart from the weather's better? Are you actually picking things up? Because you are having dinner. I mean, I don't tell you anything in my hour on the mat with you. You're telling me what to do. But, when we're at dinner and there's a whole bunch of us, does that help you in your professional life, do you think? Getting a chance to actually absorb versus just provide a very good service?
I think you get to see behind the curtain a bit more. You let someone else talk. Other than just about their game that they're wishing to improve. So I think when you spend enough time around people, if you think you see 30 different people a week and you hear and you see and feel how they are coming in, you become very sensitive to people's emotions and people's body languages. And so when you then go and sit down to dinner and then you let them talk about their work life or their holidays that they've had and stuff like that, you certainly, as I say, you get to see a bit more behind the curtain of that individual, and it does help you when they stand on the mat and hit shots. So it is it's great to spend time with people that you help, and you get to find out, as I say, more than this sort of surface level relationship.
Yeah. Well, and then so Stuart, you're very coherent, and as shown on this chat today so far, and I think you then felt at some point, I'd like to do some media work. How did that transpire? And I know you love it, and you probably like to do more of it. But what made you want to do it, and how did you get into it?
I'm all about diversity, really, Peter. And from my late teens, early 20s, I've had some sort of golf coaching in my life. And there's been phases where it's been super busy and then backed off playing and then busy again. In the last 10 years, I was really, really busy face-to-face coaching. When I was working with Nick Doherty, and he packed up playing in 2017-18. He then got to work with Sky Sports. He's now he's the lead anchor there. And he did a Tea Time Tips series on Instagram, and he wanted to do a TV show. And I had started to dabble with a bit of YouTube, a little bit. Hadn't really committed to it. I couldn't really see how I was going to work out the opportunity to make it work. So anyway, the Tea Time Tips TV show came about, live studio audience in an indoor facility. And he asked me, would you like to be the coach on the Tea Time Tips show? 1 hour show. It was with Annabelle Dimmock, myself, Andrew Coulthard and Nick. And I said, yep, because I'm always, if you ask me to do something, yep. So I went along and did it, and it was quite scary, but I loved it. And I prepared for it. I did some silly witty things as some training aids. I like to make a training aid out of stuff at home because I think it's really great for people to be able to use that. And in lockdown, Nick was doing a little bit on Instagram, and I got a bit in there, and I thought, I quite like this. I quite like this. And I've got a silly little hobby that I do, radio controlled car racing, which is a bit nerdy, and it's really, and I got a YouTube channel called RC Race Car, and that's became subscribed, and I did that. Got a couple of thousand subscribers, and I did that. So I got used to talking to camera, and being asked to do this Tea Time Tip show, I felt like I was already kind of primed and ready to talk into an inanimate object and put emotion into it. So I did the show, watched it. I was really pleased with it. I then got asked by Sky Sports to come and do some work in the studio, and I did a few shows in the studio, and I enjoyed it. Again, live TV. I'd grown up watching Sky Sports as a kid, and to now be in the studio with a feedback in my ear, counting down to we're going live, and I'm watching the stuff on the TV in the studio, plasma in front of you. I needed some new underwear. It was a hairy moment, but as soon as I got a golf club in my hand and we were off and running and I was talking, I loved it. It was great. And that inspired me to then do more with my YouTube channel, which is Good Golf Coaching, and push that side of it. And so I'm actively pushing the media side more. It's now started to tip the tables of being able to back off of my face-to-face coaching, which I'll never not do. But again, I'm able to do less face-to-face, bit more media, bit more YouTube, bit more remote coaching. So the model of my business is changing and evolving as I'm growing, getting a bit older, just with the experience obviously that I've got, and you get a little bit more media presence. It helps, a bit of notoriety and obviously a bit of leverage to being able to offer up my services.
Yeah, and I mean, I think definitely COVID changed things for a lot of people, right, Stuart? I mean, I know you did a few. You started, what else am I going to do? I may as well do some chipping videos in the back garden, and they say you look very relaxed in those. I think Nick even had you on remote ones during COVID, as you said. But if I might point out, at some point you said, you can't teach golf on YouTube, and I can't see how you do remote coaching. You embrace both now, right? So again,
Absolutely.
we can talk about the channel in a minute, but again, just from a decision-making process, what made you reflect and say, do you know what, maybe I need to be honest with myself, and I think this can work. How did that transition happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a big credit must go to Lewis, Sparrows, big on Instagram. Go check him out. He does a lot of remote coaching on Skillist. And I just saw him doing more and more of it, and obviously has a nice income from it. Lewis has got over 100,000 subscribers on Instagram. So he's got himself a reach that allows him to advertise that. And so he can get people off the back of it. I had no reach. I've got a couple of goats and a farmer in the outback following me on Instagram. I've got just over 1,000 or something. So I've got no reach, but I started a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel, because I learned about the remuneration of a YouTube channel, but knowing that it takes a lot of effort to get that YouTube channel going, I decided to commit to giving YouTube a fair crack at the whip. And so I decided, stupidly or not, I'll get myself 2 cameras and I'll get into work 1 hour earlier, which was 6 a.m. And I would bash out an extra hour of content, and I'd do a video a day. So I'd film all the content, edit it, and I'd do that during a week. And I did it for a year. And in a year, I got 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers. And so I started the plan of, I'm going to give myself 10 years to try and get to 100,000 subscribers. 100,000 subscribers will give you about £10,000 of passive income a month.
Right.
And I thought that's worth doing. That's almost a bit of another pension.
Yeah, no.
And so I thought, if that's the case and I enjoy making them, why would I ever stop doing it? So if I can get in 10 years' time, which would make me 55, if I am now creating passive income and I could keep doing a video a month, and this is something that people are going to then want to find me on Skillist as remote coaching, I could slowly extract myself from doing face-to-face, which I will always do, but I won't be beholden to it. And I think as a self-employed individual, not having the opportunity to have a scalable income, YouTube offers me something very, very different. And so that's why I wanted to commit to that, see how that looked over a year. But I needed to going to give it a year's trial, because I think that knowing what I knew about YouTube, that it's tough to get things going. So that was my plan, and I've stuck to it. And I think creating a habit is the toughest bit. And once I created the habit, I had to learn about how to edit, learn how to thumbnails and all this kind of stuff. The turnaround with Lewis's help of the Skillist and what YouTube could offer and how I could offer a different spin on it, that's really what changed my mind.
Yeah, and I think, Stuart, this applies to, lots of self-employed people. I mean, if you're, a golf coach or piano teacher or a fitness instructor, you do the maths of 35 hours a week, 30 teaching lessons, X pounds an hour, go on holiday, 6 to 8 weeks, bosh, that is my salary for the rest of my life plus inflation. And that might be great for some people. That may be the ones they live their life. But if, you don't have a company paying into your pension, no one's giving you a pension contribution. And I think, the mentality is something that self-employed people have to think about. You have to choose your own level of comfort, your own aspiration, and have your own. You do need do you think you need a business plan? Do you always have one mentally twirling away?
I think so.
Twirling away?
Yeah, I think so. Nothing written on paper, right? But to my wife's annoyance, I'm always working, really.
Right.
I mean, you never hear what I say. Sorry, I didn't hear what you said. But I'm always thinking about the next video, the next angle, the next project. But that's just me, because I probably have more trouble sleeping now because I'm excited to get up and get going than I've ever done.
I was going to say, when you said you thought you'd work hard, I knew that must mean you get up at 5 or 5:30, because you get in the office at 8 when you're on a coaching day. So yeah, hard work being at the centre of everything, Stuart. Now, a couple of things I wanted to just ask you about is, and I know you're very conscious that you don't critique anybody else, but your YouTube channel, and I recommend any golfer to like and subscribe to it, is you've chosen your own path, right? You explain how the golf swing works. 10 to 15-minute lessons, very structured. There's no gimmicks, right? It's not, and then it's not suddenly I try out the new driver from Callaway and then I found a chipper that, helps you. You have a certain ethos and coaching standard that you brought to your YouTube channel. That was a conscious decision, presumably, because that's the way you feel about golf. Is that something you could just maybe talk us through a bit more, Stuart?
Yeah, I was never the best golfer, and I had lessons from high-profile coaches down to someone at the local golf club, and I never really felt like I got the full story. And it was really the training through sort of the anatomical side that kind of lit the spark of what could be. And then through my own journey of helping people and seeing the pitfalls that they inevitably experience and going and trying to find a way in, it's probably it's the last 10 years have I felt like I've got a handle on everything in the golf swing. There is, put anyone in front of me, I will have an answer.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important for a golf coach. You can't keep bashing the same nail in the wall. If the nail is hitting concrete, you need to take the nail out and stick it in something softer. You can't keep hammering down the same message if it's not making a change. So you need options, and I think that's really important. I think, having said that, there has to be absolutes within the golf game, because we're all adhering to the same forces. We all have to deal with the physics of the two colliding matters. And as long as you are flexible in the bend that you want to see in the sky, you need to adhere to these absolutes, as far as I'm concerned. And my journey was, I can demonstrate, I can hit any shot at will in the studio, and I can tell you why I've done it. And I didn't really see anyone doing that. From the Danny Moores of the world to the Rick Shields to anyone. No one's demonstrating with a TrackMan unit. Yeah. And I thought that was a niche. And I thought, why not take away the opportunity of someone to quickly flick and move on, build a deep client base, subscriber that wants to learn more than the superficial. And I think that's why I've initially, my sort of USP was my broom series. And I've had so much wonderful feedback from that, and it really sparked an imagination of people. And I think that my desire to make people understand it for what it is, and not this magical, mystical being the golf swing is, I'm not the best golfer. And if you saw, and I should try and dig it out, some early swings that I had, it was shocking, Peter. My golf swing was shocking, and I couldn't bust eggs. But the tenacity that I had to get it around is what won me over. I think if the tenacity and having a decent golf swing can work together, that's why I feel I can go out and play any golf course at any time without any practice, and I will shoot around par.
Yeah.
And I think if you can give golfers an understanding that, oh my goodness, it's maybe not what I thought it was, that then rectifies something else, it gives them hope. And I get so many emails, so many comments of people saying, you've uncovered the game that I've been learning for 40 years and I've never seen anything explained like it. And I have at least one email a week of that, and I'm talking like a 5-minute email, and I have 60, 70 comments like that a week. And it's so lovely, and it feeds my ego a little bit, but also, and I'm conscious of that, but what I'm more conscious of is that I'm making people get up out of their seat and want to go and practice again. And I think going back to someone standing in front of me that has my hour of attention, that I can make them want to go and play better golf, I can now do that to 2,500, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people on one lesson, on one video.
Yeah.
And if that does not make me get up out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning and want to go and put that together, I'm not doing it. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because I'm so desperate. I can't believe I'm getting emotional. So desperate for everyone to enjoy this game because it's brought me so much joy. I can't believe I'm getting emotional.
Sure, I'll talk for a minute.
Ridiculous.
Because to me, this is what differentiates you, because I've played golf with you a number of times, most of it in the sunshine in
Yeah,
the soul. And you knock it around in par, fine, and you might hit 3 or 4 birdies in that. But your face lights up when Kathy or myself or Mark hits the driver that she's been working on in the range for the last 2 days. You get a bigger smile when Kathy does that, or when I 7 irons to actually draw, than when you could have 3 birdies in a row, and you're like, well, okay, that's fine. And that's what you, to me, I mean, that's why you're so passionate about it, right? That's why you're getting so emotional about it. And I mean, to me, Stuart, I've read some of the comments on YouTube, and it's not, I'm biased. Your Surrey community is biased, but I've seen the comments from, Jane here from Irvine, California. I can't believe you've only got 20,000 subscribers. So, I know that you're going to get to that 100,000, if not more, Stuart. And one thing I'd say about precision golf, I feel blessed to have found you guys, but I also think you've ruined golf for me. And I'll tell you why. It's one, I can't watch anyone. I mean, I can watch someone bash it around with Phil Mickelson, but I can't watch anybody else's coaching channel. So you've ruined YouTube golf coaching, and you've ruined buying clubs, because I can't go and get a cheaper one off the internet. I have to come and see Simon and get it fitted properly. So I feel blessed and cursed.
Yeah, all under one roof.
All under one roof. So, and I think, I think the other thing to me that is a bit unique about you, Stuart, is, I know you've got a little bit of an engineering background. You've got your cars, and, when you've explained the golf swing to me, it is clear you have a knowledge of physics, basically. I mean, it's Newton's first law and Newton's second law, and angle of attack and the path line and how the club moves. And when you slow down how the club moves, that don't work. And then when you see it in full swing, it realizes that physics is actually the reality of how the golf club moves. And I think, to me, one thing I want to ask you about is, you've started your own journey of actually learning how YouTube works and how Photoshop works, because a lot of people will be sending this to some friend in another part of the world at a much cheaper hourly rate than you charge for your work. What's kept you on the path of editing your own material? And is there a joy in that, and the learning that, again, is part of your ethos, that why you've kept going versus, I've got 20,000 subscribers. Someone else can do this for me now, frankly.
Yeah, because I think that the editing is part of me, and I think the editing reflects who I am. And if I need to zoom in on a part, or I need to make sure that they're seeing it from the face on or the down the line, how can an editor know that that's important?
Yeah.
They're not. They're just gonna try and create flashy transitions and different graphics. So I think if I can learn flashy transitions and graphics, then why would I not do that myself?
Yeah.
Why would I? Because it has to be the fact that that will make the content grow faster than an edit that's done by someone
Yeah.
else that doesn't highlight and get the right camera out of the three angles that I use. That's more important. So I think that's kept me wanting to do it. There might come a time when that changes. I don't see it anytime soon. I have got a meeting on Friday from a company in California that want to help me, and I've just done it from a they
Explore.
seem very legit. Yeah, I thought I'm just going to hear what they have to say and go from there. But I'm enjoying learning about Photoshop. I'm enjoying learning, and it's funny. My little silly car racing that I do. I now sit at home on a weekend and I go, do I want to go and learn a bit more about editing, or do I want to go and car racing? I'm torn. Now, isn't that fantastic that
Yeah.
my job
Yeah.
has now gone back to what it felt like as a kid, playing the game for the fun of it. And now golf has given me back my hobby because I feel like editing is a hobby and I enjoy making the thumbnails. I'll sit at home, got the TV on, Yellowstone, wife's watching it, doggy sitting next to me. I'm fiddling around, I'm watching Yellowstone, I'm doing a thumbnail, and life's good. So I at the moment I'm very happy to be filling my time with that because I think it's showing my personality in my videos, and as long as I keep seeing the growth, maybe it could go faster, maybe it's slowed down, whatever it might be, but all of the time I'm seeing the growth and I'm enjoying it, Peter. I'm going to keep on doing it.
Absolutely. So that kind of brings us right up to date, Stuart. So maybe just a few reflections. Is there any advice you would give to someone who has an ambition to make a career out of their hobby? I say it doesn't have to be golf, but anything. It's a tough question, possibly, but any reflections on how you've navigated that path and any learnings that you'd like to share?
I think any hobby can become a job. I think, and I watch. There's a lady called Lauren Jumps. She's a jump rope guide. She's a skipper.
Oh right, yeah.
And in COVID, she started skipping, and she's now got 2 million followers on YouTube, and the same on Instagram. And she's created a business from it. But she brings personality, brings energy, and I think if you do that with whatever your hobby is, and you then make it commercial, just bring passion, energy, and a good work ethic, and work hard. I think you can make anything pay. And it's never been easier to create content. It's never been easier to create websites, create an advertising campaign that's however small and insignificant that can gain traction. But I think that the passion that you need to show that comes across, that's your USP, I think, as any individual that's looking to make their hobby into a job. So I would say that being comfortable in your own skin, to make yourself look a little bit foolish, be comfortable with being wrong. But I think this is life, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you want to be good at your job, you've got to bring passion to the table. You've got to bring enthusiasm. You've got to have good work ethic. So I just don't think it's for golf coaching or taking a hobby. It's just life, man. I mean, you look at successful people, they're not laying in bed till 10 o'clock in the morning, are they? They're up. I remember years ago listening to Ramsey. Goodness, what's his first name?
Gordon.
Gord. It said I'm in the gym at 5 o'clock before I go and do a day's work. Business people are up early, but I think it's because their head is like, because I feel like I've got so much to do that I've got no time for sleep.
Me and my wife, I'm probably oversharing, but There's a guy called David Goggins. I don't know if you've heard of him. You Can't Hurt Me. I mean, the guy's completely crazy. Trained twice as a Navy SEAL. He's got his own YouTube channel. And me and my wife like, I want to work out this morning. It's six o'clock, and we just say, time to Goggins it up, and that's what.
Yeah.
I mean, get out of bed. And
Yeah.
and you know, I wanted to play golf on Sunday, so I walked the dog at 6 a.m. so the dog would be lying
Done.
asleep for 5 hours after I went to play golf.
Yeah.
You know, he's at my feet now. I wanted him to be quiet during this interview, so I walked him at 6:30 this morning. I think that's, you know, hard work, you know, reaps its own reward. And then one other question, Stuart, is what would you tell your 18-year-old self as a specifically as a golfer? I mean, maybe the advice would be get someone to pay for you to go to Arizona State for 4 years. But apart from that advice, what advice, having been on this journey, would you give to another person who wants to go pro as an 18-year-old? Maybe it's Christos, or maybe it's yourself, or maybe it's anybody listening to this. What is your reflections on how to do it with giving yourself the best chance of success in life, not necessarily just in golf?
Yeah, well, in golf, I think you need to find without talking down the golf coaching community, you need to find a golf coach that knows his stuff. Yeah. I think you leave way too much to chance. I have no doubt in my mind that Christos will be a PGA Tour player.
Oh, wow.
And he will be a top 50 golfer in the world. I have absolutely no doubt about that in my mind, because I believe that once the brain ties up with what the ball is doing, and they do the same thing, and you understand it, which Christos does, I don't believe that there is anything that you can't achieve in the game. There'll be very small differences right at the very pinnacle, but I think nuts and bolts, I think you can. So my advice to the 18-year-old is find yourself a good golf coach. I didn't find it until I was in my mid-20s. Yeah. Ship sailed, unfortunately.
Okay.
Now find someone in the world that's going to help you with your golf swing. And I don't think I would have advised me to do anything other than travel.
Yeah.
I think traveling, if you travel, you completely change your awareness of what the world is about. And I think for people that, you know, when you speak to people, I haven't, you know, seen much of the world, I think that's a shame. Obviously finances, I get that, of course, but I think travel is crucial, because that really makes you, I think, as a human, seeing the differences in how people live and cultures. I think that's an incredible thing to have under your belt. And I travelled a lot, and I think that's what's made me who I am today.
Yeah, all right, Stuart. And the next 3 years, it's pretty much, there's no big change, right? It's the evolution of what you do today. That's your business plan, or the one in your head. Keep going as is, tweak it around the edges maybe, but no big changes coming up from your perspective.
No big changes really. Looking to move home. That's going to be a decent change, I would think, at some point. But no big changes. I don't think I've ever felt more content with my work-life balance than I do now.
Right.
And I think the hard work that I've put in has given me the opportunity to do that and feel that. And I think in your late 40s, if you've worked hard, you've earned that right to feel like you can blend how much you should be working and resting and being able to balance it out. So yeah, it will be all ships sailing in the same direction, and hopefully getting a little bit faster and a little bit bigger.
Well, Stuart, this has been, I trust that the people who aren't into golf have found this an interesting life journey, and they've made it to the end. But for those of us who are golfers, you know, how can people find you online, follow your work? Of course, we'll put it all in the description later, but maybe just like as a parting word to just tell people how they can reach out to you and get hold of you.
Well, you can come find me and my thoughts on the golf swing on Good Golf Coaching on YouTube. You can check me out on Instagram on Good Golf Coaching, and you can also find me on Facebook on Good Golf Coaching. And if you want to check me out on Skillist and you want to have me either just simply take a look at your golf swing and analyze it, you can find me there, or my name's Stuart Cartwright on Skillist, and I'd offer obviously one-to-one coaching on there, remote coaching as well. That's a little bit different than an average one-to-one coaching experience. Hopefully you would understand that, because it's me. I far more back and forth with a one session, personalized tips and communication and stuff there. So you can find me there as well. And if you want to check out Sky Sports Golf, you can find my advice and my studio work on their YouTube channel as well. And hopefully you'll be seeing me a bit more on Sky Sports coming in 2025 too.
Well, thanks a lot for your time, Stuart. There's a couple of topics that we haven't quite covered, like a bit of garbage, a bit of Monday Night Live, but we'll save that for our round with Cantor live on a golf course this time next year, Stuart. But for now,
Look forward to it.
thanks so much for giving us true insights and opening up your heart and your mind to your journey, and great conversation, Stuart.
Thanks, Peter. It's been great to be here, and wish you well with your channel too.
Thank you.